Welcome to my talk about competences for the fourth industrial revolution and how to reach them. I have split my presentation in three parts. The first covers the changes by the fourth industrial revolution and the development of the Internet of Things. The second part discusses briefly which are the necessary competences for workers and employees in a digital society. And the third part of the presentation shows how workers could be trained for Industry 4.0 and Internet of Things using a learning factory approach we developed in Potsdam, Germany. Well, what are the main changes in workplaces and processes? And I put these together all beginning with the word D, so that something is no longer valid that was available and proven in the past. The first is de-standardization. We will have more individual products and individual customer needs that have to be fulfilled both in B2B and in B2C. The second development that will take place is the so-called de-linearization. Due to the more autonomous factory environment, it's not necessary that processes are done always in the same series of events. So it might be that in my little figure here, the first white process follows A, B, C, F, E, D, while the yellow one first goes from A to F and then across C, B, E, and D, and the blue one even a different process. So processes do no longer have to be linear. The third effect is the dematerialization, which you can see in the vanishing of analogous cameras, analogous compact discs, and long playing music discs and so on. And we will see this furthermore in the industrial production when you exchange drawings, three-dimensional drawing files instead of the spare part you need. The fourth main change is or will be the de-hierarchization. That means not only the hierarchy of humans that is no longer necessary, because most workers will be skilled enough to find their own solution without asking their manager, but also the hierarchy of computing systems, which will no longer be necessary in that manner. And therefore we call it de-hierarchization. And we will have some effects on the qualification that is necessary for common work. I call it de-specialization, that is the blue triangle here. But so that means that by the help of new intelligent assistants, work can be done by unskilled people that could only be done before by skilled people. We have this when we create our own documents on the computer, and we add another font here and another picture there. This is a task that was done 30 years ago by skilled designers, and now everyone can do this. And on the other hand, we need some more specialists. So this despecialization is also a re-specialization, because to maintain all these intelligent agents, to maintain all these autonomous objects in the factory and all these IoT objects, we need more specialists. So this is not only a despecialization, but also a re-specialization in new areas of competences we did not need in the past. And the last and also quite important effect or change in workplaces and processes is the effect of delocalization. Sometimes it's better than to concentrate on 3% more effectiveness in the local factory, on 300% more revenue generation if you change your perspective from your own company to your network of organizations that is around to the customers of your customers. And sometimes you can achieve much more benefit when you follow the delocalization. Well, these changes have tremendous effects on employment and on humans. First, it starts with the cyber-physical systems, big data, and the Internet of Things. But what does that mean? On an individual level, it means people have to perform new tasks, and they have to learn and be aware of new content they didn't need to know before. On an organizational, collective level, there will be new forms of factory organization, like the autonomous factory, and new forms of work organization. That means that employments will be different, organizations will be different, and decision-making will be different. On the qualification level, also individually, there will be new requirements because the work is done in a different manner, and new competences. And now I want to speak about these competences. We did a thorough research with some major German industrial companies like Siemens and Infineon and Festo, and we came out with some competence facets, we name it, for workers or employees in the fourth industrial revolution. But please note that these competence facets are now also necessary for workers on the shop floor. Perhaps some of these facets might have been useful in the past for employees, so-called white-collar employees that do only decision-making but perform no actual work, like me. But now we also have these competences necessary for workers. And let's have a look what these competences are. They are grouped by three things of competences. A professional competence might be that somebody who is in logistics has to know about auto ID technologies and approaches, and has be able to use or apply them as well. A new leadership competence is that somebody who leads a group of workers has to be able to assess the work performance of the workers, motivate them, criticize them, convince them to do something they don't want to do, and negotiate as an intermediary, something that was never before necessary on the shop floor because there was always the master or the factory boss who could do this. And we need, the workers need some more social skills, like they have to come up with mutual solutions with different colleagues in regular meetings, which they also didn't need before when all work was prescribed and they only had to perform their single tasks. Second group of competence facets is organizational. For instance, the machine operator has to be able in the future to identify bottlenecks in the current production process and to restructure his or her resources to avoid these bottlenecks. There are some methodological competences. Simple maintenance tasks and repair tasks have to be done by the machine worker, the machine operator himself or herself. And there is also a demand for new process competence. The machine operator has to be able to check whether there is a retooling necessary, or where he has to be able to interpret some key figures that show him whether his production process is on the right track. And the third group of competences is, for first, the cultural competence. somebody has to have a non-judgmental attitude while maintaining intercultural contacts. Other professional cultures speak different languages, so not everything somebody says is self-explanatory. Then we need some new interaction competences. Employees have to be able to work in a group to achieve a holistic mutual result and to be able to work by themselves on these results. And last but not least, we need some personal competences. The machine operator has to cope with a larger number of machines. So that means she or he has to be reliable in her decisions and aware of techniques to cope with more stress than before. Especially the red competence facets in the middle of this chart are especially new for the fourth industrial revolution. Well, when it comes to training now, what can we come up with some requirements for trainings to make the trainings more effective? First, they have to be focused on the individual, because people are different. No two workers are of the same upbringing, of the same education, of the same skill level. So they must be much more individual than before. Second, they should be in or near the actual work process. They should not be in a hotel 100 kilometers away where they don't see their work environment, because off-site training does not work anymore. And there should not be an input orientation. So you have to perform all these trainings, but there should be made sure that the learning objective can be reached by the worker during or after the training. And therefore, we developed, to achieve these requirements, a mixed approach for trainings of workers in the fourth industrial revolution IoT environment. It comprises of 3 phases. The first phase is the learner in green works in the company, and there are some documents to be signed, to be agreed on and signed, which is first the learning objective agreement, which is an individual learning agreement, and the trainer discusses a qualification plan with the learner. The second phase is a group work in the learning lab, in the learning factory. You see below the competence facets, we give the workers or the learners some scenarios they can work on, and we give them the new content they need. And first we look for qualification, which is different between these individuals. And we also have a questionnaire for the awareness of new technologies and their results. And phase 3 afterwards is then an evaluation back in the company. Learner and trainer together evaluate the achieved competences, the qualification measurements, and the attitude the worker has gained. And the good thing is it works in a learning lab environment like this one here, where you have a simulation, but a hybrid with real machines, real normal robots and industrial technology, conveyor belts and so on, that is used everywhere in the industry. But this learning labs, there is a machine that says to the learner, I need resupply, do something. Or that the robot says, I cannot work because part number 4711 is missing. Or another machine says, I'm a little bit disturbed, but this disturbance will be cleared in 50 minutes. Or there is a new order coming directly into the factory. We need 50 more pieces till Monday. And this is also a working environment, as You can see here the small cubes are workpieces, the big cubes are machines, and we can come up with a couple of different scenarios so that we can individualize the learning tasks and the scenarios for the different workers. The good news is at the end of my presentation that you can have this also in your country, in your universities, in your learning and teaching centers, because we make this available. We divided it into different building blocks, and you can decide which size and which scenarios you want to have in your fourth industrial revolution learning factory. And we deliver the factory operating system, so everything works together. And we also deliver the simulation and process app running on different devices so that learners get their tasks done in our learning factory. Thank you very much for your attention, and I will be available for questions. Thank you.